What is going on? It's the ADIX up in this bitch. How you doing, man?
Oh, good. Super busy as always, so it's always cool to be able to sit down and have conversations with you and do things together. Um, I've been doing my football thing, doing the puppy thing. Madison soccer just ended. Was going to all her games. Always out of town. Um, Trying to do a bit of the jujits, so that takes up some time as well. Now that the soccer's gone, I don't know, do I do more stuff in my free time? Do I, want to stick the gym into those free spots now? Like that was something that I've been missing that I haven't been able to do. And obviously because of COVID, things have been closed down. Now things are open back up. You can go and book your times and all that kind of stuff. So it's a balance. Do I want to get, the puppy into training and take up my free time doing that? Because we were looking at doing maybe, uh, private lessons with off leash stuff because with a dog that big, if you have complete control over them verbally without a leash on, it negates all the potential fear that people are like, "Oh, it's a big scary dog. It's gonna attack us or it's gonna hurt you." And you can just look at it and give it, a marker, and it just does the thing that you need it to do. You don't have to grab it by its collar and rip it to the ground with all your strength. It's completely under your control, and it only cares about what you're telling it to do or not to do. So that's what I've got going on for me recently, aside from obviously the normal, work, which I'm sure you don't have to tell people that you're working every day too. What do you got going on for your extracurriculars?
In the extracurricular world, just removing old dishwashers, installing new dishwashers for people. Um, all sorts of funny little things. Somebody will say, "Oh, hey, I need to get a key cut for my car," and whatever. And they're a super good friend. They would do anything for me. Maybe done a ton more for me than what I've previously done for them. So I'm like, yeah, I'll get you a key. I'll cut it. I'll do whatever. If I got to cut it with my own machine at home, I'll figure something out. Like, I'll do it and get it done. And I'm not going to charge you, even though it cost me for the key, because I know you would have, that type of stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing keys and fobs for somebody, the dishwasher trick. I'm fixing up and building a few computers for some different folks, one being myself, one being for some other people, and then a few repairs here and there. Just, hey, can you look at this? Can you look at that? Okay, it's your shit's actually fucked up. I'm going to have to take this home because I want to sleep tonight, and I'll have to continue working on it tomorrow. Those type of things. We got a bunch of cement poured around the house,
Yep.
a little bit of back stuff, a little bit of front stuff, a little bit of this and that. We're still going to be playing that game for a bit longer. It's been so rainy. It's been shitty in between. Like, there hasn't been 2 or 3 straight days of nice weather, or we would have baled our hay. Geez, I could probably go on and on about a bunch of petty, bullshit or whatever, but help somebody change the codes for them to get into their house because somebody else may or may not know the codes, and they shouldn't get into somebody's house, or like, it's a bunch of stuff where I might be a little bit more well seasoned in that regard than they are, so I try to jump in, help them out, whatever. Um,
What about the fun shit? Are you doing any fun things these days?
there's a few fun things that I don't know. I'll specifically mention yet. I think you might have to listen to the podcast for a little bit longer to maybe have me reveal certain things. Like, not to say I give a shit about saying this is what I'm doing or that's what I'm doing, but certain things that might put other people in a certain position or might make them more vulnerable to the world and so on. And I don't. It's all like law abiding, stuff. It's not like a legal activity or anything else, but it might be like a partnership in this project with someone, or it might be doing something with that someone or whatever. And I don't necessarily know if I want to reveal that without talking to them first, or whatever. So I have been having some fun in some regards. Fun for me is sometimes just fixing one of those computers for someone and going, yeah, victory. I turned this problem into, whatever, a working machine. And so Yeah, I mean, is that boring? Is that hurting?
I don't think it's boring. I was going to say maybe for the people that don't know you, that are probably going to get to know you over the course of these episodes, that is it's like a reward factor thing for you, right? That satisfaction is what makes the thing fun. Just like it would be with me working out, right? I have a really good workout. That for me is fun because that reward was that I worked hard and I accomplished the thing I wanted. It's just a matter of, I think more people widely appreciate certain fun things as being like fun, maybe on any scale, versus your thing is fun based on a reward system of accomplishments.
Yeah, like I'll often do that to whatever, like, oh, this is such a wonderful glass of water. So I have to repair this thing or make this whatever it is. I had a leaky pipe the other day on a T fitting. It was soldered in copper and it like super, super hard water at my house. And it just, it is what it is, right? We've got water softener, you could do this, you could do that. But over time, if it's been a few 10 years, it's bound to happen in certain little spots or whatever. So the thing's like got a little drip every now and again. So I thought, whatever, I'll cut this thing out. I'll do this, do that, whatever. And then of course, once you cut that out, the plumbing's got to be, so there's all these brackets that you might have to manipulate, or you might have to, whatever. It's not going to be 5 minutes now. It's going to be an hour to, put a T fitting in, which is ridiculous. Certainly for a plumber, especially, they'd think that might be funny. But we're talking 8, 9, 10, whatever brackets all through to shift that plumbing half-inch over to get it seated or whatever it is. So I can't eat dinner until this is done. I will not eat dinner until I can turn the water back onto my house. And that's done, and I've checked it for leaks, and I'm confident that everything should be good, and I can have a sound sleep tonight, assured that things are going to be good. I will not eat until that happens. So that's my reward system in that sense. It could be something as simple as I got this really cool magazine. It's a Cigar Aficionado magazine, a new one, and I can't read that magazine, even look past the cover, until I do all the dishes. And I'll put that right there on the table and go, a bastard. And then I'll do the thing that I have to do to earn that, which I just made that whole system up in my own head, though.
Right.
But that's my own personal reward system. So for me, it's like once I obtain those rewards, it's actually really fun, because now that you've got to that point, there's a sense of accomplishment. There's some type of this feeling of achievement of some, even if it's just a T fitting that took you an hour to do on your pipe, rest assured there isn't another drip and another drip that becomes a stream and becomes goodness knows what while you're half an hour away and
Right.
you don't even know it happened or whatever, right? So I don't know, just kind of going off on a tangent as far as that goes, like some things that seem either mundane or not particularly that exciting or don't have like this amazing backstory or build up to doing, I still very much enjoy. And what I often say, at least on like weekends or blocks of time that I've got for ourselves, is that I'll come home on Friday, and when I leave on Monday, I best be leaving the house better than the way I got home to it on Friday.
You see, I wish I had that willpower or that determination, because I'm completely satisfied with not folding my laundry for like
Oh, hey,
a week.
I gotta do it or I'm not gonna have shit to wear.
Well, yeah, I get that too. And like Mad and I, obviously, like all of our laundry is mixed in together. So a lot of times she's depending on me to do the thing, and I'm completely happy not doing the thing and like going and doing my own thing, doing the podcast, going to work out. Maybe I watch a show, or I, read a thing that I was really interested in, or I wanted to dig into something. Have no qualms about just skipping all of the important shit and doing the fun shit. And it's tough, because when I get into those little, like almost like ruts, like I'll get into a good flow of when I come home or when I like get in the door, get, A, B, and C things done, because I'm not in that kind of relaxed state yet. I'm in that working mode. And it used to be really easy doing that when I wasn't working from home, because I would arrive from the work and I'm like, time to work. Now I'm at home. I'm always in this sort of relaxed state, but I'm in a sales role and I have to kind of, be whatever you want to call it, on, so to speak, because I'm always need to be, friendly and personable and talking to people and being helpful, which I think is basically how I am most of the time, but it's almost a little bit more peppy because you want to, get that sale and to make sure that that person is satisfied with the service that you gave them and they're happy with the thing that you sold them. But I'm at home now. It doesn't seem like such a big deal. I wander downstairs and I grab my lunch, but I'm still working. I'm still at work. So it's a really weird thing for me, and I don't particularly like it because it makes it now sometimes either hard for me to get back into that work mode, or on the opposite, it makes it hard for me to shut it off because I'm at home. I can just quickly check my phone and answer that email or do that thing. Whereas when I was at an actual location, when I leave from home, unless it's an emergency, like I'm not answering stuff at work. It's work time is over. And now it's just work time is all the time because it's just upstairs. I can just go upstairs quickly and do that thing for that person on my computer. And, similarly how you have that determination for that, I get in those kind of sequences at work where I just can't break free and like relax and truly like shut down from work. And I can't even remember where the point started because I just went on a little tangent as well. But yeah, working from home it has its pros and cons, but it really saps my personal life because I don't want to leave work, if that makes sense. Like I do want to leave work. I want to go and enjoy my things, but I also want to continue making money and making money for the company and being a valuable asset. So it's like this constant internal struggle where I have this trouble breaking it.
Yeah, it's a funny one. Like you say, the pros and cons, like no matter what in that regard, you'll always be able to put the left column and the right column. That's a little bit of a shit where you eat scenario, so it's very difficult. So, and I'm not going to make the left column and the right column, which I mean, certainly we could. If anybody gives a shit about that, I'll tell you what the left and the right column are as far as that goes, and certainly my opinion. But that's where you live at work now, or do you work where you live, and now you've got this. Like if you don't draw a hard line or say, okay, but then what if a client calls you at 9 p.m., like you're already home, you would have been home. Either way, you would have answered it, but it's hard. And don't get me wrong, it's not like all I do is just grind everything all the time. It's, certainly not the case. But sometimes, like you say, if you come home from whatever, the office or the business that you're part of or whatever it is, sometimes you might for an hour or two really be able to keep going. But sometimes you go, holy shit, like it's been 10, 12, who knows, whatever hours it's been that you've been out, and I come home, I get changed, I do this that's not work related, or it's not beneficial to anybody else. It's just a mental health thing. I want to take an hour and do this for myself, so there's that unique balancing structure that you have to have. At the same time, in the sales game, I find it very difficult to continue to really grind. So when you make a really big sale, oh my gosh, like I'm going to get, whatever it is, this 22 grand in commission for this sale, or what. It doesn't really matter what it is, but you have to be very careful not to coast now. Oh, well,
Yes.
now for 2 weeks I'll be cool because I landed that client, I closed that deal, I sold that house, whatever it is, or whatever, it doesn't matter at all. It's just I obtained whatever this thing was, big or small or indifferent, that I'm working on now, and I got there. Do not coast after because you obtained it. Have the next step, the next thing in line, the next whatever you're looking forward to. Don't coast. So with the mixing of the sales and the work from home and I'm living at work, and so it's a wonderful thing not to commute or not to blow 2 hours on something where you could have been more efficient, made an extra sale, done something for yourself, had that whole workout and not burn the gas expense and kilometers wise on your vehicle. Or there's so many different things, but especially if maybe you don't live alone or there's distractions at home, or like you say, it's a little bit easier to just focus over here or go downstairs and now I get carried away doing or whatever. Then yeah, if you're in that office or in that whatever building, or of course it's not going to be necessarily as easy, but like, let's be real, most of us are just constant on the thing. So it's, but yeah, if there's other people around, do they hold you accountable?
Right.
Are they watching you just sitting there mindlessly scrolling on some shit that's completely ineffective to your betterment or achieving your future goals? Or are you actually scrolling on something and learning something? Or is that the client you're dealing with right now while you're sitting there looking at your phone? It's hard also to judge people what they're doing on their phone as well. So, it's just a tangent after tangent. We'll just keep throwing them out there, but just thoughts go out there in the airwaves, and we could sit here and talk about this all day long, but I quite find it quite nice to just go back and listen, or be able to say, hey, last year, what the hell did we talk about when we were whatever the thing is? And we could bring up current events or news articles or
Sure,
posts,
there's always something to pick from.
we are going to try all sorts of things. This is basically like the alpha. So the way I see it, and I think kind of after much discussion together, we kind of agreed on it. At least I like to think so. It's not like this contract that I, have both our signatures on, but the preview is out there in the world. You can go and check it out. You can watch it. This is like the alpha. So we've tried to make at least some type of improvement, whether it be with this, whether it be with that, whether it be with a light, whether it be with the camera angle, whether it be, yes, I understand my hat is on, you can't see my face, whatever. There's going to be a mic boom that's like going to be like this or what have you. And we're going to broadcast more like this or record or whatever you want to call it. For the time being, yeah, it's a shitty little whatever. It doesn't matter, but everything is like an improvement. Alpha after the preview, beta after the alpha, and then C, if you will, is like number one. So that's season 1, episode 1. So this is like the alpha. There's the preview, there's the working out the bugs, there's the this, there's the that. It's still a proper podcast. It's just, we've got to figure it out. We've got to, that's new employees, like you said, of the last time, right? So anyway, that's kind of what I was thinking, and you said, hey, like, let's do this, let's do that. I threw something out there, and this is, I think, what we've kind of agreed on. So here is the alpha, podcast. Post preview and pre-beta, which is pre actual season 1, episode 1, which just happens, will drop in September, just like a lot of content and shows and seasons and other shit too. So that's kind of neat.
And it's funny that you mentioned all of the little nuances of, we got to tweak this and we got to do this. We need to fix this. This needs to be improved. I think because I'm so passionate about the fact that we get to just even do this, we have the opportunity to be close enough, living close enough. I can just drive over. We can do this thing. It's so frustrating for me personally to hear the feedback, knowing that the feedback is good. And I understand that people are giving me this feedback so that we can make an improvement, an adjustment. But in my head, I'm like, do you not think that I know that me sitting like this or doing this or I've got this on is stupid? Of course I know it's stupid. It's going to be fixed. And people are like, well, yeah, but if you just did it this way, it would be better. I'm like, I know it would be better that way. I want to do that, but we can't yet. We need to, like, how long does it take us to get the computer here and then set up the tripod and then get the mirror up there so I can make sure that we're actually recording, and that, like, all these little tiny things that are happening that people are like, oh, you just go in and you plug the thing in and you just start talking.
That's what we said it should just be. You put a camera there, you put a mic there, right? Isn't it so simple? Well, and again, if you want to continue your thought, definitely do so. But my very favorite thing, like when somebody dislikes like a YouTube video of mine, and I'm not like some major content creator, I think I will get there at some point, but whatever the case is, the best podcast, unboxing, review, doesn't matter. We put some kind of content out there. Doesn't matter what it is, but we put content out there.
Yeah.
And I always love the criticizer or the, whatever, the person who can judge, or it doesn't matter what it is. oh, okay, well, could you just show me, like any piece at all of your fucking content? Just send me like one of your unboxings, one of your, even just a short little clip of one of your podcasts, or in some way an example of how to do it better. Because none of them have any. None of the people that say anything like that have a single stitch of content, but they can certainly critique it all on you, can't they?
Right. And that's almost another frustrating point to add into that same fold is, can I stop them from not liking my thing because they like somebody else who is much maybe better at it than we are, or has been doing it longer, or talks about more relevant things to them that are interesting? They want, all of those things. It's like, yeah, you're allowed to have your own opinions and your own thoughts of how you would like us to do this. And maybe for the technical side of things, or the back and forth side of things, or the lighting, the face side of things, those things can be improved for sure. But if we're genuinely having fun and talking about content and material that we like to talk about, I'm certainly not going to change to accommodate to somebody and what they want to listen to. If they give a good suggestion and I would like to talk about that thing at some point, I would love to incorporate that in and take suggestions. But it's a difference between, hey, I would really love to listen to you guys talk about this, versus like, you guys suck because you don't talk about
You don't
this.
ever mention anything about this. Well, nobody asked, and we just didn't happen to get there yet in our whole hour and 20 minutes of content we have so far. Like, sorry.
Yeah, and
where's your podcast at? Where's your fucking video?
and honestly, I don't know how much I can talk or claim to know about a certain thing, even with research. If somebody wants me to talk about, something I have no idea
Oh, yeah,
in,
that's certainly
it's
not...
like, do you want to listen to
Oh, yeah.
somebody who has no interest or no idea about that thing talk about that thing?
Sure. I think it's got to be a more generalized type of thing. Like if they said, I want you to talk about fossils that were only discovered between this and this year in this country, me personally, like I like Raiders of the Lost Ark. That's my extent of archaeology. Like, as much as I think it's fascinating and cool, and that's just a quick example. But if they said, well, why don't you talk about when your girlfriend or wife says or does that? Of course, on an opinion basis, it's not, oh, this is the end-all solution for... But that would be like, oh, well, I've experienced that 6 times.
Right.
And this is what I think you should do or not do or what have you. So if it's a little bit more generalized or something I can be more passionate about or something I have some experience in, I'll be like all over it. I'd be like, I don't give a shit what it is. If it relates to me in some way, or my history, or, what have you, I'd be like, well, yeah, let's get into it. Let's talk about it. I'll throw my opinion out there. I'll throw you my experience, my results if I did this versus that. And I figured out that, what you do is not say anything about this versus
Right.
you do say something about that, or like it, whatever. Right. But I'm not going to talk about the best bristles on the brush to brush that rock off with. Like, it's just not going to be entertaining, I don't think, for anyone, unless we make it a joke. And now it's
Right.
like this big joke. Oh, you wanted us to talk about that, and we make it like a meme thing, or something that otherwise, so that's...
And depending on the topic too, is that maybe talking about it for maybe, and we can't act to please every single person and every single viewer, but
not out to.
but does it open a can of worms for a large group of people?
Oh, yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
does that affect the fact that people want to listen to us? And again, do I really care? Not so much. I don't really care if people want to or don't want to. It's up to them if they think this is entertaining or not. But that's the whole point, is I want people to be entertained by it. I want them to enjoy it as much as I enjoy doing it. And that's why it's like, you know what I mean? You don't want to taper it, but you also don't want to avoid things. Like, I want it to be as basically open table as it can be. If you have a topic,
Sure.
put it out there and maybe we'll talk about it. Maybe you'll have a completely different view as me, or maybe we genuinely share the same views. And I think it makes sense to just maybe argue the other side of it, so that the people that do believe that can be heard and can say, oh, you know what?
Sure.
I understand why they're saying that.
I would love to have someone say, you know what, I want you to talk about, like, I don't know, something maybe a little bit more controversial, or where there's really strong opinions or views, or like, I mean, it could be 100 things, but somebody just says, you know what, I want you to throw whatever. It doesn't matter whether it's 10 or 15 or whatever, 20 minutes down on just general views on abortion.
Right.
And should it be allowed? Should it not be? What do you think? Yes, no, this, that. And to say, I'm for it, I'm against it, I would be for it because of this, I'd be against it because of that. And it doesn't mean there's like a clear cut, this is just boom, 100% you're on this side of the table. And like you say, by arguing maybe even the opposite of what your opinion or beliefs or values or goodness knows what entail, might get you down to a point of like this logical answer that, at least to you, as far as trying to lay all the cards on the table or go through as many facts as possible, or just generalizing about things that you know to be clearly true or whatever, this is ultimately the, whatever you want to say, the conclusion of that subject in your opinion, or the, you know, whatever, the final verdict of, you know, and some, like, I don't have a problem talking about this, talking about that, and, you know, it will piss a lot of people off in that sense or in that regard. And it will piss a lot of people off maybe in the whole opposite sense. But maybe everybody will think, wow, I'm really glad they didn't just absolutely grind this side of it out without acknowledging any facts or opinions from the other side of the argument or table, or whatever. And I think it's a wonderful idea. I'd be more than happy to do that with you.
And I think in what you said there, those are the two big pitfalls that I find, at least, people have in arguments. I actually maybe not an argument, a debate. I like debating about things, not necessarily to be right or to be superior in my train of thought, but the two things I find people run into, especially when I'm having a discussion or a debate with somebody or my opinion differs, is what you mentioned, logic, using logic to arrive at whatever your version of this is right, this is wrong, this is moral, this is not, you know, and then being so for one side. The whole point of, in my opinion, of debating, especially against other people, is if you can find that person that has that logic that will argue the opposite point of you, that to me is a gold mine.
Well, it's a learning experience. You might actually now become educated on why what you even thought your view was is not necessarily everything you expected or believed or thought was true or untrue or whatever.
100%.
And before I lose the simple thought, which I may have put out there before, and again, you know, the old tangent trick, let you continue on your thought if necessary. But the big thing, especially today with people, oh my gosh, it pisses me off to no end. I can't believe it. Is because I disagree with you does not mean that I hate you, or that I don't respect your opinion or anything else, but I will wholeheartedly and have no problem or calm saying, I disagree because of this or this or this. Does not mean I'm trying to belittle you, insult you, make you feel like a lesser human, or that I hate you. These days it's like, oh my gosh, and I don't want to get into something right off the bat now that'll, you know, upset too many people, but the big takeaway, at least from that whole thought, I have to get this out there huge, because I am a big debater and like to do that and have banter, and especially someone who appreciates it and knows, because I have an altering opinion or whatever it is from you, that we're still okay and can continue this, is that if I disagree with you, it doesn't mean I disrespect or hate you. Just that in today's world is like foreign for a lot of people that I talk with.
Yeah,
it's because they watch TV all day, and then I say, oh, well, I researched this alternative thing where they actually went in and did this. And it wasn't like an article they were handed that said, talk about this. And oh my God, it's like,
it's that emotional response to the reverse of the logic. And that's what prompts those people to not agree, is because it upsets them emotionally, and the logic goes out the window, and they no longer care about what the logic is. And like hey, listen to me for 2 seconds. Here's how you get to this point based on what I think. Can you provide me something on your end of that similar steps for your point? And they go, well, no, you're just saying this because that's stupid. That's heartless or whatever.
That's exactly the funny thing about a debate where they no longer have ground to stand on, is it gets louder, it gets belligerent, could be verbally abusive, and it especially can get insulting. Instead of standing your ground, which should be logical, if you have been either just smashed with real facts, like, and you like, you know that you have no rebuttal, like no intelligent real, then it gets, and I don't want to name any political group or anything who really often does that as their tactic. Actually, it ends up like, now you're now being blamed and you're the asshole. And instead of me making another point or coming up with another fact or saying, well, what if, or questioning your facts or whatever, now it just becomes name calling and belittling and making you look like a jerk.
Yeah, it's an attack on your character to
Oh, yeah.
besmirch you, and now you're, and it's completely, it's a waste of time in my opinion, because you end up in these conversations with these people, and it was never meant to be hostile. You might have been just curious, and if you're so upset about this point because I have a differing opinion, and that's making you upset, then please enlighten me, educate me as to why I'm not thinking the right thing. And then I'm not above being wrong or not having my facts straight, and somebody unveils, this thing, and I'm like, oh wow, I had no idea. And they go, yeah, this and this and this, and I'm like, holy crap. I'm like, that makes complete sense, and then I completely shift my view to that side because it makes more sense to me logically.
Sure. All you need is a little bit more education on something to sway your decision, opinion, whatever it is. But if you only are armed with so much knowledge and you're not open to more of it,
you close all those doors for yourself.
It becomes this, like, back to the whole, back to square one again. Oh, you're such an asshole. I can't believe that you would blame this group of people, this party, this person, this, like, for whatever. And, well, no, what I'm presenting you is this fact that's actually been fact proven by 3 completely different entities that are either non-biased or are not part of the same motive. And this is what, this book and this book and this thing says. Not like some website that's geared to just the left or just the right, but someone is so, like, stuck on this one thing that they just, if that was wrong, then their whole platform would just be diminished. You're just a bitch for saying something like that.
Yeah, you get shoved into the opposite group or the school of thought that they're in, but you're not even in the group that they're pushing you into.
That's right.
You're somewhere in the middle, and you're like, I'm sort of agree with you in certain things.
I'm trying to argue both sides of the point and try to get ultimately to what I deem to be the most logical answer to this question or to this problem.
Discussions. Just in the way that people discuss things and debate things, it almost gets to the point where you have to shelter your own opinions because people won't take your idea in logically, and they will now no longer be your friend, or if they weren't already your friend, they won't even give you the time of day or the respect to listen to you, which again, in a setting where you might need that person to at least listen to you, whether it be work, whether it be somebody that you see often, whatever. I'm not out to make enemies for the sake of making enemies, and if I know how to make that person an enemy of mine, I'm probably going to choose to not actively do that. And that's the frustrating thing, is I feel like if I'm the one who has the more unreasonable opinions of things compared to these people, I'm not sharing them as much as those people are sharing them, because again, I'm thinking logically, why would I want to upset that person for the sake of doing it? I'd rather just keep my thing to myself, and it ends up limiting the amount of people that I can talk to and the amount of conversations I can have, or what I can have a conversation about, because if it doesn't line up with somebody else's, then now all of a sudden we can't talk about things anymore because it upset them or it made them mad at you, or wow, I can't believe you thought that way. And it's very frustrating to try to find people where you can just sit down and
just
have
be
these back and
completely
forth conversations.
open.
Yeah, like,
and when you
whatever.
say unreasonable, I think you mean to their opinion.
Yes,
not that you believe yours is unreasonable, but what I say will seemingly not tread lightly on your opinion or your view of that.
Yeah, I could think your thing is stupid. 100%, but you're allowed to think my thing is stupid too.
Yeah,
it doesn't mean that I think you're stupid as a person or you're not as intelligent as me. I just have a different view on things.
And there's so many people that honestly just go, fuck it. I won't even say anything because, like, you're just such a snowflake that you're going to break or get all crazy. Instead of just being, like, mature, open, oh, do you believe that? Well, I believe this.
Yeah, tell
Oh,
me
that's
about
interesting. Well, why? What brought you to that belief? Or well, somebody told me that's what I should believe. Oh, and do you really trust them because of like they have some crazy experience in that or no, I researched this thing for 130 hours and honestly, I come to the conclusion that this ought to be the way to or whatever and but to just straight up nope, like it's only my opinion and I'm very close-minded about certain things. Don't get me wrong, like I'm I'm human, but if somebody says this or that or the other, I might go, "Oh, yeah," or "Oh,
And then you're going to
whatever."
go home and
But
research it.
I listen to the whole thing, I listen to the whole opinion and go, "Oh, I thought it might be like this, or I thought it might be like that, or I believed it to be like this." And they say, well, no, it's actually like this, or I say, no, it's actually like that, depending on, of course, the subject and the knowledge for it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I learned something, maybe they learned something, or like you say, maybe nobody learned something, you have a pissing match, and I go home and definitely will go, okay, well, why is it my view or their view not trumping the other? Like, can we all coexist with these views? Which, of course, we can regardless, but is one ought to be better or more correct in some kind of a way or another? And then there's these things where, science versus religion versus, and then you can coexist with completely conflicting views with other people, but it doesn't mean I disrespect you or I hate you.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's so many people that just, oh, well, you believe in this or not that or the other. Well, you're a dick. And it's like, we need to be a little bit more open to people. I have this religious view. I have this view about this. I have this view about that. For me personally, but I don't care if you go and want to do guys and you're a guy, go do that. Don't touch me, but go do that. Like, what does that affect in my life if you do that? That's not my personal view,
It has nothing
but
to
I'm
do
not
with
going to come after you with the spike club because that's your view.
Yeah.
But people that just all of a sudden say, well, if that's your view, you're a bitch, is like, you need to be more mature and just more open to just conversation and, like you say, debating and whatever. Like, so I think that's a great whole, this is what it will become. And maybe we'll say, well, you're on that side, I'm on this side. Ultimately, where do we land? Maybe we truly are. Maybe we're opposite. Maybe we're the same. And we'll lay it all down and maybe do, I don't know, this many subjects or one subject, or maybe it's just like, it's the 10-minute fuckery phase of this day. And here's the thing on goodness knows what subject. And here's the two sides of it. It's this versus this. And maybe we both agree, maybe we disagree. And then we'll switch roles and say, okay, well, what about this? What about that? And just really try to peel all the layers off something and say,
Yep.
This is the best way to go about it. Not just because you saw that thing on CBC and now that's just the truth. That's all there ever is to it.
Yeah, it's strange the way that people do that, where it's so decisive and they just sever everything. And I have a friend, he uses metaphors for so many things, and I love the way that he does it because it makes even the biggest point that is so important to people so easily digestible no matter what stance they have.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And like, imagine if people acted the same way about food. You and I, we go to grab pizza and you're like, oh, I'm going to do double cheese, double pepperoni.
Oh, yeah, and you're like, you're a complete maniac.
You hear me go, yeah, I'm not going to have any cheese on mine. And your head snaps around and you're like, who is this psychopath that I'm eating pizza with? And I'm like, I can't have cheese.
That's actually okay.
Right. Does it affect you that I can't eat cheese or that I don't like pepperoni?
Fuck no. It doesn't affect me at all.
But you take that exact same scenario and you input, views. And
that's a wonderful analogy. I love that, actually.
And I get it because obviously opinions typically come from, morals and values and things like that.
Pizza
or they're more
isn't
tied
necessarily not allergies related, but it maybe isn't life altering, whereas that religious stance you believe it's actually life altering, or the afterlife will bring you here instead of here because you believed in God knows or what have you. But no, it's a wonderful analogy of just like, I would never eat pizza like that. That's fucked. and you're going, well, your shit would kill me, or, allergies aside,
Sure.
that's just too heavy and greasy for me, and we could still each order our own pizza, sit down and get along just perfectly fine. So why can't you bring that to other views and beliefs? I love it. I think that's great.
Hey, I like beef
That's
and
cool.
broccoli, motherfucker. Mind your goddamn business.
That's right.
It's that exact. That was a metaphor of. It doesn't matter what I like or don't like. I'm not going to judge you for what you like. Why do you have to judge me? Am I harming you or a group of people or an ideology in some way? 99% of the time, probably no. And if I am I actually physically doing something to impose my will upon you? Or do you just not like the way that I am thinking about something and it upsets you?
Sure.
Is it genuinely affecting you in some way? The age-old argument, you made me feel X. And it's like, I can't make you actually feel anything, but I understand that if I say something that is potentially upsetting to you, that can, trigger an emotional response. Just like if somebody said something to me that, really upset me, I think maybe because of the way that I am, I wouldn't maybe have that immediate emotional response that some people do have.
Yeah, you definitely will take it with a grain of salt, like try to digest it.
Yeah, why did they say
process
that?
it.
Did they have a bad day? Are their shoes wet? Whatever. But some people,
Yeah.
for whatever reason, don't like to do that, or choose not to, or maybe don't
Or
even
they're
know
just
how to.
too quick to react. Yeah, or again, they just don't. They've never learned to process things and think before they speak, especially back to someone that they're not completely comfortable with, and anything could just roll off the tongue. It doesn't matter. And just to speak a little bit further to that, kind of the whole thought that you had, is the world is just too goddamn
Soft.
divided and soft, and it makes it divided. So you've got somebody that's able to do that versus somebody who isn't, or doesn't want to, or doesn't care to, or whatever. But it's like, does it have to be left versus right, this versus that, this religious view versus that political view versus that? Of course, everybody has their own opinions, their own stance, their own view. I might want to vote for this, but is it okay if you voted for that politician? Like, now we cannot be friends. We can never see eye to eye. Well, it's completely nuts. Like, why is everything so divided?
It's so cut and dry the way people talk about it. And I'm not saying you can't, upset somebody, obviously, and then, you pull the mental health side of things into it. And it's like, if you're being hateful and malicious to somebody and genuinely trying to upset them and hurt their feelings, that is a completely different thing than having your own opinion and your own thoughts. You're not trying to hurt
And
this
expressing
person.
it without censoring yourself.
Yeah, I shouldn't have to say the exact opinion that I have a very specific way to not offend you or
terribly.
upset you or make you mad. I can, again, this is my own thing that typically that is the person that is prompting me to say it, or else I wouldn't be talking about it, because again, I don't know who that person is or how they might react. So I just avoid talking to people about certain views that I have. Like, I remember when I start any job, the first thing I'm not going to do is share my playlist with people. Because if they hear a few songs that
sure.
they maybe don't like,
Sure.
then they think, oh, this person is a Satanist, or this person is a thug, or a bad person. And it's
yeah.
I just like this music.
And
Like,
honestly, it's, again, back to the same thing as if you just expressed a quick opinion about something. It's this extreme, but you didn't even look into what that music was about, what it lyrically meant, it just has that sound.
Sounds
and it's
angry.
You can react to that because you listen to, I study his entire catalog.
I celebrate this.
I told that fudge packer I like Michael Bolton's music. I mean, it's, and it's exactly like the same thing as, here's my view. You don't walk into the interview, like you say, and say, this is my religious view, this is my political view, and
here's my favorite tattoo. You lift up your shirt. Like,
workplaces have even tried to say that shouldn't occur and should be banned, and you're not allowed to even, dividing again. all these things, because people, you don't want hatred in the workplace. You don't want anyone to do anything, malicious to that person because they think this way or that way. And we can't have this in the workplace. And I do get it to an extent. And I can't disagree wholeheartedly with the rule of it or whatever. But it's because everybody's just being such a bitch that they will do these malicious things or think, I can't work in this team with that person because of that view. It all goes back to being so close-minded and just immature and not open about people's opinions that, oh, you think this and I think that, well, then you dislike me. And it all stems from the same divided society of all these things and facets in life. Like it
becomes this
crazy.
one big assumption on everybody and everything and every view, every opinion, the car that they drive. How many looks did I used to get for my old car? And I'm like, when I first bought it,
I can be pretty biased and I don't know if I'd say judgmental, but go, oh, like you roll a Versa, eh? Like okay, cool. But you probably have like $1,800 a month saved on fuel compared to me,
right?
Like, and so why should I be belittling you or even judging you for? But continue. I think that's a great point.
Like I would get looked at when I first got my car, and for people listening, it had a 3-inch exhaust from the front to the back, which basically, for people who don't know what that means, super loud, super obnoxious.
But it wasn't just out of nothing. It's because it
No.
created so much boost that it really did have to breathe. If it was going to inhale this way, it had to exhale this way.
Of course, it wasn't a 1.5-inch all the way to the back and then a 5-inch.
This keg on the back of it.
It's not a megaphone for your car.
Sure.
It had a purpose. But when I first bought it, of course, driving around for way too long in second, not shifting, pop, 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 slowing down because it was fun.
I
and
like doing that.
It was an enjoyable car. Now I'm driving in my current vehicle, and I will, be driving by some guy, pop, 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 and I'm like, oh, you fucking scumbag! It's like I was that person, and
That's funny.
get the fun factor of it. But then you have the people that, they friggin', bomb the tunnel going through it, just throw it into, second, and just absolutely let it go for no reason other than the fact that you're in a tunnel and you can make it really loud. And that's the stupid stuff where I'm like, okay, at least I didn't do that when I had my vehicle. But you get lumped into that section.
Well, it reminds me of like, being whatever, some little bastard in the basement and you have no real responsibilities or major expenses or whatever. It doesn't matter. And you're like, oh yeah, go and pick up this guy's pumpkin and smash it all over his porch. And that's so funny. Or any little stupid vandalism or messing with somebody's property or throwing a fucking roll of toilet paper in his tree on Devil's Night or anything. Now I'd be like, you little fucking pricks. Like, I'd be the same old man, and like, really what the old man is a homeowner who's respectful now.
Yeah, now you have to go and clean this goddamn toilet paper out of this
exactly
tree.
Right. Although you'd think, oh, you little fuckers, they're just hanging out with their friends. I did the same thing.
Yeah.
Or whatever. But it's very easy to say that prick with that exhaust or whatever. But it almost, depending on a lot of circumstances and stuff, is that you've got enough money now to go fast that doesn't have to make that sound as well. And it kind of comes down to a little bit of, oh, I'm doing better in life now, so I don't have to sound and look like that to have a car that is capable of this performance level or whatever. And I don't know if it's a good subject or not, because I consider myself like a big car guy and really into, car stuff and so on and so forth. So it really, that's something I'm very passionate about. So I understand exactly that your previous vehicle was very obnoxious, but quite fun, but you're not just going to go anywhere and not be noticed. Whereas at the same time, you probably, potentially have a faster car now that's way quieter, way more sleek, and nobody would ever, it's nice, but generally speaking, nobody would ever really ever look twice at you.
Yeah, they're not like,
so
great.
But it's like, look at the value of each of them. So it's a funny, I don't know, it's a whole funny way to put it, but it comes back to before you had all these responsibilities or bills or things to now I'm a homeowner with these things and those things, and get off the lawn, you little fucker. Like, I just fertilized that thing and rolled it and aerated it
Do you know
and
how much
sprayed it
grass
and
seed
watered
is?
it.
And,
Like, are you insane? And before you just run your skateboard right into somebody's lawn and, oh shit, I hope I didn't get any shit in my bearings. Pull that out and the thing's mangled or whatever, but and it could be literally a 10 or 15 year difference to come up with that opinion to that opinion. And the more, you go, as I tend to say, a little bit of wisdom will actually change a lot in your life, your ideas, your opinions. And you change so often. Hopefully you change. Hopefully you advance. Hopefully you get better.
Right.
And all of a sudden, that prick ass with the fart tube exhaust and the going on my lawn and doing whatever was you.
Yeah.
It was you.
You literally were the culprit before.
So that's, it comes full circle. So I think that to be quite humorous, in my opinion. I think it's funny.
It is 100%. Every time I'm driving around and I see that shit, I'm like, oh, you little asshole. And then I'm like, you know what? No, I did it. I get it. Whatever. And then you see, older dude, and you're like, it reverts back in. I'm like, oh, no, you're an asshole.
Oh, yeah, again. Oh, now buddy's in whatever, such and such. The thing's 180 grand. And it does whatever. And, oh, well, he's a prick. But... well, it's not a supercar. It's not like I'm just out to look like this. I'm actually like in a driver's car and I'm really having fun and whatever. But you're like, friggin' asshole. And so there's like these stages and you will be that guy in another 10 or 15 years.
Yeah.
What's buddy doing in the, oh, well, I guess, actually that was maybe a sensible decision to have a really high performing car for the value. Yeah. You know what? I guess I used to be him too.
Yeah.
And then the pop and exhaust guy and all that, like now you're calling the cops on him. It's like, what the hell happened?
Yeah, it's that constant like changing of the guards, and it's like, oh,
sure,
you have that car because you go to the track once a month and you just love to just give it absolute balls and just do your thing, versus somebody who is literally going and parking at the same parking lot every Thursday, and they're like, oh, I'm a car enthusiast. And for the people that are there, there's a good bunch of them that are, and they're like, oh, what did you do with this? And oh, how did you change that out? And they want to learn more. And then there's the people who know fuck all about it or even care about it, and it's just they want a head snap from somebody on the street. That's the only reason they have that car. So it's you talk to the person, you learn that they actually built that thing and they MacGyvered this thing together to make it work because they didn't have the money to afford the car, or they just love this vehicle, this model so much, they're just always going to have this.
I love
car.
the passion over the fashion.
Yeah.
Is what I kind of like to say, because often those, what seemingly would be the shithole, possibly sleepers or just something that nobody really... oh, the women don't like that car, that whole kind of Hollywood bullshit, whatever it is, will usually tear the absolute fucking doors off that guy's Lambo or whatever. And I absolutely love that. I don't give a shit about a supercar. I'd rather have something for half the price that goes twice as fast. Yeah. Like, I think that's really cool where you put something into it more than just, I want everyone to look at me and think I've got a really huge dick when I pull in here. Like, I don't give a fuck about that. I think it's so cool to see, and I don't give a shit about Volkswagens. I just happened to see one the other day. But a GTI that will just absolutely blow the fucking doors off an F355 Ferrari from, the 90s. That was like incredible. Or like a McLaren F1 series or something, just eat it. It's like, that's really cool because somebody had to seriously do some stuff and really get down with it than just buying a car and driving it.
Yeah, they're getting absolutely everything and more out of what this vehicle is capable of.
I think that's like really, really cool. And of course, I'm super biased to that whole thing, but in my opinion, I'd rather drive like a 90s vehicle that I think is really cool. As a matter of fact, I do often, compared to something that, oh, like it has this, it has that, it's got the other. You know what? Like, I'm comfortable. I think it's cool. It's this, it's that, it's the other, whatever. And I think that's really neat because I fixed that, or I did that when it broke, or I did this when it needed it, not just, oh, I guess you got to get it scanned. Oh, I guess it's got to go in to get, whatever computer hooked up to it. And I am an IT guy, don't get me wrong, so it's kind of funny. But I don't wear tech I don't scan my computer chip at the checkout. Like I draw a line somewhere there, and I really do like older stuff and mechanical stuff, and think it's neat to have like an old computer game that you can put in compatibility mode and see this thing from when you're a kid, or whatever. I can go on and on about that, but yeah.
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 So I'd say we're almost about there on the alpha. Although we do have 336 hours left remaining on the disc if we want to continue for audio purposes.
I mean, it's funny to joke about it now because I joked about it last time we talked, and like there's very well a good chance we're, if we did that, we could fill that up.
Oh, no question. I'll be recording to external devices, or I'll add hard drives, or we'll actually set up like actual rig here. Like this is a solid, rig that's just constant here. It's all it does. Like where this, it's not anything particularly special, but I do this with it. I do that with it. It's got a video card, so I can kind of edit some video or render something on it or whatever, but it doesn't matter. Like, I've got all sorts of gumption and all sorts of terabytes to fill up, so that's no problem in that respect. Is there any like final thoughts or funny things? Should we do something at the end of every podcast where we say, okay, we'd like to cut it off, but we should do this, or we should say that, or we should say this is our favorite such and such this week, or something kind of cool that's consistent as far as what the thing relates to, but it's always a different answer, or like just say, okay, fuck you folks, and shut it off, or like should we,
I don't know.
is there something that we should say, okay, like once we kind of hit, I think an hour is kind of nice. Like we might have a crazy one, and we might have a little bit shorter ones. Maybe every so often we'll just go nuts and whatever, smoke a stick, or we'll grab a bottle and just like go to town for 4 hours or something and whatever. But typically I kind of like this, 2 cuts of about 30 minutes and throw them together in one sitting. And
I think it makes sense to have the shorter ones too, for the people who literally, for whatever reason, they are like, I'm not dedicating an hour.
Well, yeah, but why don't we do clips? We could do the ADIX clips.
Yeah.
And we do that thought we had and talked about it for 8 minutes, or that tangent we went off on for 12, or even just have a 2-minute thing that, oh, that's kind of a funny thing. I'll check us out for an hour if you thought that was cool or whatever. Of course, we're just spitballing and off the top of our dome, whatever.
Yep.
And as it goes, we might have someone that says, well, why don't you talk about that? Or we might say, why don't we implement this? Or we'll say, why don't we pull up this news article and pick it apart and say, let's debate back and forth about whatever we think would be the solution to that versus this, or how could we have done that? And one other thing, I don't know if I ever told you about it. You and I talked about it like a while back, but I never really mentioned anything further about it. But I kind of wanted to do something like our good deed of the week, or our good deed of the month, or something like that, where we decide to try to help someone or some foundation or some type of thing that we would think to be in some way, shape, or form relevant to like our community, or somebody that just what I don't give a shit if you go and we buy 10 cans and go bring it to a food thing, or we make a big pot of soup for people that couldn't get dinner that night, or like, I don't know exactly what it is, but I know it is something out there that we could do. And I thought like the ADIX good deed of the week, not to say like, oh, look at us, now you have to listen to us because we're so great or anything, but like if this is already fulfilling, what more can we do, at least for me and, hopefully you, to say, oh, that was even more fulfilling than if we just did. It doesn't have to even be recorded or filmed or anything else, but we could just say, oh, the ADIX good deed of the week was we threw this granny on the curb before the bus hit her, because her walker wheel fucked up on the road, or whatever it is, just something that, in some way, shape, or form, we could help the community, or at least a person that is maybe less fortunate, or could just use a little lift of something, or I don't know, like what we talked to like way back when about it, but it's been a while. So what do you think of that type of thing?
I think for one, it makes a ton of sense to do that, because
one, I think we're pretty versatile in what we can do or help with, regardless of what it is, whether it's volunteering, whether it's like a physical, whatever, installing a thing or a lesson or, anything like that. I think we're both, fairly diverse. I think we're driven. And if we're already getting together and doing, things together and we're doing things as individuals, I think it makes sense to do that under kind of what our brand is. If we're, doing the entertainment side of things here, that's not to say that, we don't want to also be helpful and contribute in some way, especially like you said, locally. That's something that's super important to me. I've always volunteered coaching football because I know football. That's something that no matter what, whoever I'm talking to, whether it's somebody my age or a little kid or somebody, I probably have some type of idea or a way where I can give them something and say, I hope that helped. Not for anything for me besides it being enjoyable for me to kind of coach and teach, but hopefully to give them something to, bite a piece off and say, wow, this helped me, this improved me in some way, or this, made this easier for me. So yeah, I like that idea. I think we should do something. Maybe we have like a little planning session, and I don't, like, you can cut all this out or whatever, but have like some type of a planning session before maybe our next recording. Like we come down here, we get everything set up, and then we maybe, slap a whiteboard or something up there and we throw up an idea, and then maybe because the video's running, people see the idea, maybe we get feedback on it, other suggestions, whatever, something where people who are also listening and watching can engage in some way and give us that, suggestions and feedback.
Yeah, actually, that's really super. If we even were to say, I like the board, you slap a board up, you do a live stream for, I don't care if it's 10 minutes before we decide to hit the button and like record our thing, but just go with a live, whatever, Facebook thing or whatever type of stream, YouTube live thing, whatever, just blast all of our friends, whatever. And there's gotta be people that are in our group or part of our friends or whatever that say, holy shit, I actually do this or whatever. And oh my gosh, like, two able-bodied dudes could move this thing to so-and-so or could pick up whatever, because not many of us here are able to lift it, and that would benefit somebody. And we go over with the truck and do that.
Right.
But we didn't know that was a thing that could have helped people. Or any little example, it doesn't matter what it is. I just mean, how could we be, like, for even just a very small amount of time, I piss away more time than what it would take to help some other person out for a few minutes.
Right.
Like, come on.
And if you don't cut this out, and this isn't just you and I talking, for whoever's listening, don't get your shit twisted. We're not a fucking moving company. Like, we're not just
Oh
gonna
yeah,
come
sorry.
and
Did I
just
put
do
that out there?
favors?
Like, oh well, I can't afford a moving guy and my back's sore, so the ADIX will fucking, yeah. Come on, get fucked. Like, I'm talking about somebody who's like starving or
In need.
doesn't have socks because everybody donates pants and shirts and sweaters. So we'll bring them a bag of 10 pairs of nice condition socks. It could be any little thing, but yes, good point.
I'm not landscaping. I'm not gardening. I'm not fucking picking up your butts in the backyard from your smokes. Yeah, like, fuck off. Come on. Let's be
fair enough. Yeah,
be real.
like let's be very clear about how valuable our time really is, and when we mean to fulfill someone else's needs, it's not to fulfill their shitty expectations because they're a lazy bastard. But anyways, I'd say that's about it. I'd keep it in. It's an alpha. It's just something to throw ideas out there. My picture of the vegetables we got off the garden probably got, I don't know, 20 or 30 times more hits and likes and engagement than our whole podcast. I was like, you fucking kidding me? My wife goes out there for 30 minutes, picks a bunch of shit from the garden. I take a few pictures of it. Everybody's raving about it. I put down an hour of track with you after how much effort and bullshit, and like 3 people like it with a thumbs up. They can't even say a comment on it. They just put a thumbs up because that's how lazy they are. But I still appreciate you doing that, and I do the same thing. But it's like, okay, one of them was our father or whatever. It's like, okay, guys. I mean, come on.
It's like, do you want us to do a fucking podcast on vegetables? Because all I'll talk about is
I was
some
thinking
greenery.
of putting another big ass picture of vegetables on there and saying, "Psych, listen to our podcast." Like, get fucked with the vegetables for now. We're trying to put some content down. It's funny, like, you don't have to watch this video on YouTube and stuff. You can just listen. And there's actually a few friends and a few people, coworkers and so on, that like are either content creators or I think know enough about the world to like seriously appreciate what this takes, and not just like, oh, they're just fucking around talking and drinking like a bunch of slobs. And it's like, well, no, like the shit doesn't all just happen by itself, and it doesn't happen by itself overnight for most.
Yeah, like I had to staple like 2 of these up.
Not to do any bragging or anything else. We know we've got tons to improve, and that's why we're doing a few of these before like episode 1, where we're actually going to try to be somewhat professional about the shit. So anyways, I'd say that's pretty cool. I'm pretty hungry, and yeah, I could use a drink that will make me burp. See, ever improving.
Peace.
The ADIX up in this bitch. See ya.